So I'm here with the man with two belts, Mr. Sam Driver, who's going to be defending his belt this weekend at EFC, a fantastic show in his home city. Thank you so much for taking this interview on short notice. How are you feeling? You're only days away.
Thank you for having me on, David. Yeah, delighted to be here. Feeling good now, feeling ready. My body's feeling good. Not worried, not nervous or anything like that. I've been around the block a few times now, so I know the story. My fourth fight in the last 5 6 months. So it's there's no more nerves at this stage now. It's just same old at this stage. I'm well used to it. So looking forward to it, relishing the moment.
Yeah, and you see that from before the fights, after the fights, you can see that you're really enjoying what you're doing. What you put that down to? Is that just because you can see the improvements every time you fight, or what is it? You just love fighting.
Still have a good scrap, yeah. Bit of crack, like it's something else, you know. It's I would have always watched the UFC and things like that when I was younger, and to just be putting yourself into that same moment, putting yourself in those shoes, of course, at a smaller scale for the meantime, but it's just quite a feeling to be in the spotlight and doing the sport you love, performing in front of people and things, and trying to put on your best show. And I would have in my earlier fights maybe got a little bit angsty before the fight and things like that. And the days coming, I'd be thinking about it a lot. Nowadays, I'm just cool as the breeze. It's just, to be honest, the sparring rounds we'd have in MMA Cork it would almost match the fight sometimes. Me and Brian would have a few old headbangers the odd time. Now we'd take leather off each other, and when we have good sparring partners like that, it doesn't take much to turn around and go into a fight. Then it's just the same thing except you're doing less rounds. So I'm feeling good and ready.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like that, you said you this is your fourth fight in about 6 months. That's quite good considering that the weight class that you're in as well, there's not a huge amount of talent. I would presume you're constantly looking to stay active and you will seek out fights as much as you can. How do you find getting matched? Obviously, you're not having a problem, but I remember 2 years ago it was hard for people at this weight. How does it feel to have more options now?
Yeah, you're dead right. Like when I first started in amateur, I was having a lot of trouble getting opponents, and I was saying to my coaches, like it was very frustrating at the time. I was mad to just get in there and get going, especially after I had a loss. I really just wanted to get back in there and get back on the winning side of the column. But this year now, it's just people have come out of the woodwork, and this, I suppose, from winning the first title that I got, it kind of gave me a bit of a boost in promotion. Maybe more people wanted to fight me. That kind of helped a bit, I'd say, as well. So, but yeah, no, it's great to have some other talent around that I can go out and beat and compete with. Yeah, of course, you need someone standing opposite. Yeah, it takes two to tango. But yeah, I'm delighted that there's bodies there now to compete with and show off what we have.
Yeah, you spoke about to start your amateur career and you started off on a loss and you wanted to right the wrong. When you went into your next fight and when you win the next fight, and I believe it was a finish, I want to say, was it real naked? No, it wasn't.
It would have been, yeah. I'd had no, sorry. The first I had two wins, started my career with two wins, then I had two losses. One of them very controversial
Yeah.
in my opinion. The other one, I'd let that one go. I won the rematch. Was my fifth fight. Was I came off the two fight skid and came back to win the Premier belt in a rematch. That was against Matty O'Rourke, tough competitor. We went 6 rounds in total between the two fights, and yeah, there wasn't an inch to give. We both had to give our all in those fights, and I was just glad to come out on top in the second one. Um, to won the 3 rounds in the second fight, I was absolutely delighted, and that was a decision. That one, I felt I could have maybe went for the finish in the third round, but I knew I was ahead and I was on top. I was landing some shots. I thought, you know what, I'll cruise a little bit here and not risk anything. In hindsight, I think I would have liked to have just stood up and gone for the finish from there and rain down some ground a pound. But hey, look, you do what you'll do in the moments. And the main thing in my priorities at that time was to get the win. But I'm looking for shows now. I'm looking for performances, not just wins.
Yeah, and like that shows a huge maturity for a young, for a fighter that's had was it 6 fights now? Six.
7 now. This will be my eighth coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just shows at that stage though your maturity to know that I can't get into a bad, like you can go into an advantageous position, but it could potentially put you at risk. That shows a huge maturity. Is that just something that came from previous fights?
Yeah. Like of course you spar to have a fight simulator kind of feeling, but there's it's not quite the same as when you actually get in there for a fight. funnily enough, in my very first fight, it was against Mantis Velasquez was his name, and the start of the first bell went, and I just froze like a deer in headlights. He actually hit me with two right hands before I even reacted. Sorry, I just had a talk coming in there. Yeah, it took two shots before I even woke up and said, "Okay, I'm actually fighting now. I gotta reply here with something." Just because the heat of the moment got me a bit, but now I don't really feel like that hits me the same way. It's just a feeling kind of calmness actually once the bell starts. I'd be I'd be a bit racy beforehand, and then once the bell goes to start, I'm cool, calm, collected, which is where you want to be. And I suppose that just comes with experience, with getting a lot of fights in shorter periods of time. I'm sure if I didn't fight for 2 or 3 years, then I'd have the same kind of vibe coming up again. But now I'm all good.
Yeah, no, and you've got the two belts with you. Obviously, you won the Premier one, but the Cork one, the Elite one, how special
Yeah.
was that for you to win in Cork? What does that mean to you?
Well, it's a fantastic belt. It's really good quality. I'm delighted with that. Like it's just some feeling to fight in front of the home crowd and to get to win. Like I'd had a I'd had a lot of traveling for other fights beforehand, and just to fight at home, it's a nice environment. All your training partners there and everything, friends and family come to see you. So it was just a nice bit of a homecoming, and it felt like it really wrapped up everything I'd done so far, and felt like I'd really felt like I'd achieved something after that fight. Even though I'd already had one belt at that stage, it really just gave me an extra feeling of confidence. Um, I felt like I'd legitimized myself a lot, and I was very happy to see that people who've been supporting me the whole time were actually getting to enjoy a show and get so that they got something out of actually supporting me the whole time. And it was just a good feeling. Yeah, yeah, delighted with it.
Yeah, because like that, being in Cork, most of your team as well as yourself would have to travel for fights. What would like obviously you're usually going into someone else's backyard, so you're not going to have the crowd behind you. What was it like to hear the Cork crowd? Because I thought the atmosphere was unbelievable at that show.
Yeah, yeah. I was fighting another Cork man, so it was going both ways. To be fair, I feel like this time now I'll definitely have a few more cheers on my side. But yeah, like it's the show for Elite FC. It's top quality. The production that Barry puts on, I mean, it's second to none. Like even after only there being there hasn't been that many Elite FCs compared to some of the other shows, but you wouldn't know that from the quality of the talent that's on the show and the quality of production. Like the walkouts are great to see and things like that. The way they have the stage at the back to have actually a bit to walk out towards the cage, it's nice. And just I really like the setup. I really like the cage. It's a nice environment to fight in. I've had fights before where I didn't really like the way that the venue was set up, but I'm very happy fighting in the bars in Elite FC. It's a nice show to fight on for sure. Good for the
Yeah,
fighters.
I like the walk out there because you've got the stage, the walkway is like level with the cage. Everything just kind of lines up, and I said this a couple of times. This what Barry's doing is fantastic because with Cage Legacy kind of on hiatus at the minute, Premier, I know their last show didn't go ahead. It's nice to have something that the likes of you guys don't have to travel 4, 5, 6 hours for. And you can have that home advantage as well rather than having to always travel somewhere else. But you put together a nice string of performances recently. Your last one was a devastating TKO, in my opinion. It was very, very looking at it was kind of like, wow, this like you really put a stamp on that performance. How does that feel coming into this fight with that last performance?
I would have almost rather to have some more cage time in that fight. You're talking about like distances traveled. I was only thinking about it when I was driving home from that event. I did 10 hours driving for a minute long fight. I was like, this doesn't weigh up well. It'd be nice to fight at home next. So that's definitely something that bit of a relief that I don't have to travel too far. It's only down the road from where I am, and can just focus on the fight itself rather than the logistics. Um, but yeah, it's so nice to have a home show. It's nice to go away too, but it just feels like you're at home. Um, and yeah, I definitely got a lot of confidence from that fight, from having a good performance to jump right into this one. Like there's no worry in my head in terms of like, am I going to be able to do this or anything like that. Like I know the story at this stage. I'm well versed in going out and having a tough fight with a tough competitor. Like my last opponent was very physically strong. That was something that was in my head, even though he hadn't as much experience as me. I was thinking like, is the power going to be a problem? And no, I got a lot of power, so I'm not worried about any element like that. I'm as cool as the breeze going into it. I feel like there's a finish coming here as well. And you never know how things are going to go. Could go the distance, but I feel like I'm capable of finishing this fight.
Yeah, you're both guys with a lot of finishes on your records. You've got the TKO and you've got two subs, and I think he's got 3 subs as he got at the IMAS then as well. So it looks like wherever this goes, it can potentially be finished, and it's an exciting fight. Talk to us about the atmosphere right now in the gym, because obviously a home show, there's so many fighters on it. I know obviously there's usually fighters on every other show and there's more than one, but when you've got so many fighters on one show, I would say the gym is just absolutely buzzing right now. Tell me what it's like.
Murderers Row, David. Everyone has just picked up the level so much the last month or two. Serious faces, people have a little bit of edge in sparring in them these days now. Of course, things have toned down a little bit a couple of days before the fight. We're right at the mark now, but yeah, it's been some tough sessions in there, all right, which is exactly what you want. You want your training to be harder than the fight itself. You want the fight itself to be almost just like a showcase of the hard work you've already done. You want to train hard to fight easy, not train easy to fight hard. I think we do definitely a good job of that in MMA Cork stuff. Yeah, it's been a tough environment, but great for preparation, second to none in that aspect.
Yeah, and like that, you're one of my favorite gyms at the minute, and I think I don't want to say underrated because I don't think you actually are anymore. Because you see so many of your fighters at shows, and there's so much talent coming out of there. Like I said, with Aaron and Jack there, the 2 boys are 2 of the nicest boys, but the training that they do with you can just see it, and the ways are together. But going forward, we're not obviously you're not going to be looking past your opponent, but you've had quite an active year this year so far. Are you looking to keep the activity levels up? I know you were looking at maybe going pro fairly soon. Talk to us about what your future may be like after this fight.
Yeah, I'd like to take a little bit of a break in early 2025, but not too big a break either. Maybe around the spring I'd get back into the cage again. Although saying that, I could turn around on Saturday evening and say, put me in there next week. I could want to fight straight away. You never know that until the time. Your headspace will be in a few different places sometimes. Like I was actually in a strange position there recently that before my last fight, I'd already had this fight announced. So I had 2 fights booked in a row. And like that was a bit of a mental preparation to say, like, okay, I'm going to go into this one, then there's no break. I'm right into the next one. But because I had a fairly easy fight in the last one, didn't turn out to be any bit of a problem. In fact, I still got to get to recover a bit and things like that as well. So I'm not too fussed about that. But yeah, I definitely want to if this fight goes well, this fight will be the bit of the deciding factor in terms of where my career will go from here. Like if I wasn't to get the win, sure, I'd want to get a bit more experience under my belt, but I'm quite confident that I will. And if I put on a good show and get the win, I'm confident that I'd either go straight to pro, or maybe I'd have one more amateur fight before that, in around there. That's my thinking at the moment. Of course, I'll let Aaron and Jack tell me what to do. In the end of the day, they're the real bosses. It doesn't matter what Sam wants to do sometimes. I trust their guidance. You're saying they're very nice lads. Yeah, they're the nicest coaches you could ever find. In fact, that was what attracted me to MMA Cork in the first place, was that it just felt like a real comfortable training environment. Like, we were training hard and still getting work in, things like that. But it's not like people were screaming at you, and like I'd had coaches before that were almost trying to like bully you into working hard and things like that. And that environment didn't suit me. I like the buzz in MMA Cork. It's a crack. You're the best will be brought out of you under your own terms. It's not going to be it's not going to be bet out of you. It'll be encouraged out of you, and that's a nice environment for me. So yeah, I love training in MMA Cork, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
And I would gravitate towards that kind of training, or if like that sort of thing to on my job, if I had a manager, I'd like them to be more like that. But other people, it does work the other way. But I think that's more old school, and I think that's phasing out now. I think you need to have a personal aspect to training fighters as well, as not just technical. So they're doing a fantastic job there. And Jack coming back, and his last fight, oh my God, what was the gym like? What were you watching that live? My heart was in my mouth. I thought he got dropped twice, and then all of a sudden, boom. What was it like seeing Jack going out and doing this? Because he's come back this year. Does that inspire you in the gym when you see him go do stuff like that? on Octagon.
Oh, for sure. To be getting knocked down and get back up and to fight on like that, to fight with such heart like that, that's very inspiring to see. And that's Jack through and through. He'd rub it off like it's nothing, and keep on going. Like, and he'd always be tough like that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you put against him. He'll come back and find a way. And that's a lot about what MMA is about. Is finding a way, even if in the face of adversity. You might be against a tougher opponent, a stronger opponent. You could be against someone who's downright better than you. But if you have the grit, if you're willing to bite down your gum shield and find a way to get it done, stay in the pocket, keep your head sharp, and find a gap of a submission or something. Find something. If you're willing to keep your head in the game, be patient with it. An opportunity will often arise. Jack took the opportunity when it came, and my God, it was some feeling watching it. Yeah. It was very inspiring. So fair play to Jack. I'm very excited to see what comes from him next. He is at much higher a level than he's a little bit under the radar. And there's a few people like that in MMA Cork. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a good future for us as a gym. But yeah, no, it's they're great coaches. And even there, you're saying I have a bit of a story, like you're saying about the old school way of training there. I was in the Netherlands for a while. I went on an Erasmus, and this was a couple of years ago now, before I'd actually fought amateur. And I didn't speak a word of Dutch anyway, but I went into a kickboxing gym, and there was this old meathead trainer there, and like you see a lot of belts on the wall. You could tell it was a good gym, and the whole thing was in Dutch, so I didn't understand a word of what the class was. I was just trying to pay attention to what was going on, and he was just screaming at us. He'd come over, he's screaming at me in Dutch, and it's like, yeah, it was definitely getting my head in the game. Like, okay, I gotta go. But it wasn't necessarily the right way for me to learn, I thought. And just like I like the way we go through things in MMA Cork. So yeah, definitely the more modern way of coaching suits me better. All right, but for sure, there's horses for courses, and some people need to go kick off the arse, and different kind of ways. Good to have a bit of everything though. Good different options.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there's one thing, like you said, and it must be an ethos in that gym with the heart, like you see in you. Evan Horgan's another one I've seen it in when it's gone tough times. Brian Manning, especially when he's getting head kicked by Senan Coakley shin to neck and he walks through it. You can't teach that anywhere else. Is that just kind of, is that a gym thing or just a Cork thing? Because I know you guys over that side of the country are just hardy fuckers and you love a fight. Is that just a Cork thing or is it a gym thing, do you think?
Could be both. Could be both. I mean, what that comes down to is who wants it more. At the end of the day, that's a lot of it. A lot of this sport is who wants it more. Do you want this belt? How badly do you want it? Are you going to make it happen? Sometimes like you'd see people kind of wilt in certain positions and after certain impacts, and other people it'll light a fire and say, no, I'm gonna get you back. You hit me a good one there. I want to get you back. And I'd certainly have a bit of that in me. Like there's been I would be guilty for at times where someone hit me with a good one in training and I'd actually start grinning. I'd get a good smile on my face and be like, all right, now we're going. You kind of woke me up a bit here now. Let's get you back. Like, let's put you in your box. But look, there's always going to be a bit of that. But that's a good thing when managed correctly. Of course, you don't want to be completely pucking the heads off each other and sparring. Like we're good for pulling our shots. I'll say that too. But yeah, no, it's definitely a thing that's around Cork anyway, whether it's the gym or the county in general. It's a good aspect to have.
No, it is, and it is. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been a fascinating chat. I don't know if I'm 100% going to be there. I promised the last two shows I'd be there, but I'm working Saturday, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it. Depends on how early I finish work. But whether I'm there in person, I'll be watching at home. If not, I can't wait to see you fight again. I can't wait for this fight. I think this is a very, very good matchup. I think you're two high quality competitors. But is there anything you want to say before you go? And thank you again for the short notice interview.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. No, nothing in particular, really. I mean, I feel like we've covered it well. I'm just looking forward to getting out there and showing what I can do. I want to strike. I want to grapple. I want to do everything. I want it to be a good performance. That's what I'm looking for. And I have no doubt, based on the last couple of UFC shows, they've been fantastic shows to watch. Like even when in the crowd earlier, before watching some of the earlier fights, like it's a stacked card. Like you look at the competitors on that card, there's no easy fights for anyone. It's all it's all fights. But I'd be like, oh, I really want to see that one. Like there's no fights to miss. It's like a good UFC card. It's like UFC 300. And that's one thing that Barry's done a great job of, is getting good competitors on the show to make a good show. That's step one. Like have good fights to see. And so I'm just really looking forward to being part of that, making a good show. And thank you to everyone who comes to the events. Thank you for everyone who buys the stream. And it's great to have the support. And get it out there. You know, Irish MMA is definitely on the up. Cork MMA is certainly on the up, and yeah, let's see where we can take it.
Yeah, no, it is like you said, stack card. This is one of the best cards that you'll see down south. It's one of the best cards that we probably will end the year on. It's like top to bottom. There's no easy fights. There's no gimmies for the home fighters. Like, oh, Evan versus Youssef. There's you versus Count. Like, they're two tough fights. They're not easy fights, and that's what I really like about it. It's not a give me show for maybe the home show, but I can't wait for the show. I can't wait to see this fight. Thank you so much again. And whether I see you in person, I'll be watching anyways.
Thanks for having me, David. Delighted to be here.